Okay. We have to talk about this, friends. The WEF is seeking to push climate lockdowns. Oh man, I hope you're all ready. For today's video, we are gonna go over to Kim Iversen. Listen, she is gonna do her thing and we are going to listen. So listen to what she has to say in the light of this particular discussion here. Without further ado, let us now get into the heart of the message.
Hello and welcome to the Kim Iversen Show. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this someplace other than Rumble, this stream will shut down after the first segment. Then the show gets better because we can finally cover the topics we haven't been free to cover. So you're definitely going to want to be there. If you aren't there yet, that link is down below. All right, coming up on tonight's show, World Economic Forum, climate lockdowns could soon be a thing of our future. We'll talk about that. Plus, the Died Suddenly directors join us to talk about their shocking film. We also talked to Garland Nixon about how the prolonged war in Ukraine is actually helping China and Russia. And Tara Reid joins us to talk about the latest Epstein case being shut down by the governor of the Virgin Islands. That's coming up. Are we headed for more lockdowns? This time not for COVID, but instead for climate. This video was trending on Twitter, and of course, critics are calling it a conspiracy theory. So I had to take a look at this myself to discover whether or not this is real and credible. So I headed to the website, WBSCD.org, for myself. Now, WBSCD stands for the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And I did a quick search for the article itself that was shown in that video, and it popped up. Here it is, Avoiding a Climate Lockdown. Now, before I read part of this article, there are some important bits of information. First, the author, Mariana Mazzucato, is an American economics professor who taught at various universities.
Oh my goodness, it's interesting that here's Mariana Mazzucato. Do you guys remember I did a video last year where Mariana Mazzucato was literally prophesying? It's good to check out that video. I'll put a link in the description below. She was going in there with an article talking about C-19, what is going to happen, how it's going to happen, the changes that will take place. It was crazy because my thought was, number one, is either you are inspired by God, you are to be a prophetess, or you have some inside information. It was one of those two things, because how could any person be talking like that? But little did I know, she is closely related to the World Economic Forum, so she has insider information as well. So it's good to look into this woman, Mariana Mazzucato. She's not a novice, okay?
Including NYU. She's now with the University College London. She's also been an economic advisor for various European governments like the UK and Finland. But most important, as you can see here, she's with the World Economic Forum.
There we go.
Also, the WBSCD, World Business Council for Sustainable Development, that placed the article on the website, has many members in its leadership who are also in the WEF. You can see this is the executive committee chair. There's also the vice committee executive chairs who are also in the World Economic Forum. So plus, let's look at the member companies of this supposedly sustainable organization. They're promoting sustainability, but some of these biggest companies that are in this membership are actually the biggest companies in the world, many of which are arguably reliant on the world not being exactly sustainable. Companies like Chevron and BP, as well as many companies who benefit from lockdowns, companies like Amazon, which you can see there. Now, this should give you an idea of what this organization is about and whose agenda it actually represents. Okay, so let's take a look now at the article itself. Here it is. As COVID-19 spread earlier this year, governments introduced lockdowns in order to prevent a public health emergency from spinning out of control. In the near future, the world may need to resort to lockdowns again, this time to tackle climate emergency.
Ooh, spot on. I mean, we can end this video. She is telling you what they're about to do. Mariana Mazzucato is giving you inside of information of what they're about to do. There was a video that I saw from Project Veritas, and it was literally one of those Pfizer videos where the little hidden cameras was there. And what I saw the one guy said, which I can probably find at the end of this video, was that after C-19 lockdowns and everything, the next thing in their plan was climate lockdowns. I was like, no, he did not. And yes, he did. I'll share the video at the end of this video here.
Shifting Arctic ice, raging wildfires in western U.S. states and elsewhere, and methane leaks in the North Sea are all warning signs that we are approaching a tipping point on climate change, when protecting the future of civilization will require dramatic interventions. Under a climate lockdown, governments would limit private vehicle use, ban consumption of red meat, and impose extreme energy-saving measures while fossil fuel companies would have to stop drilling. To avoid such a scenario, we must overhaul our economic structures and do capitalism differently. Okay, so what does she mean by do capitalism differently? Well, in the article, she links to a PDF file titled A Smart Green European Way of Life, the Path for Growth, Jobs, and Well-Being. Now, the article, when you go through it, isn't specific on what exactly they mean as a green way of life. They just say everyone will need a drastic lifestyle change and allude to what we've been hearing from the WEF, you will own nothing and you will be happy. They also point to Europe and say the Europeans are more willing to try out new ways of life, and so they make a good testing ground. I'm sure the Europeans love that. As you know, we saw much harsher lockdowns and much longer lockdowns throughout Europe. It was where they unleashed COVID passports first and wouldn't allow people to travel anywhere without them. So take a look at this. This is a video put out by the World Economic Forum called 15-Minute Cities. And the idea is, you're going to have everything within this 15-minute radius. Look at this. The aim is to cut car use, resulting in fewer CO2 emissions and cleaner air. Now, this is a really appealing idea, right? 15-minute cities. I like the idea personally of everything being within a 15-minute.
I did a reaction video to Awaken with JP. Exactly what she's referring to is that they are looking to put people in certain communities. You need a pass, a government pass to drive certain distances and so on. This is crazy stuff. It's like we're talking about tyranny. We're talking about government control. We're talking about a state run where people's freedom are restricted. This is not little stuff we're talking about here. But this is all under the notion of saving the world. Keep that in mind.
Radius of my house. But I don't like them if I'm told I can't leave, right? So like the lockdowns during the pandemic, if I wanted to stay locked up to hide from the virus, that should be my choice, not the government's. Same with vaccines. I like the idea of a vaccine that stops me from catching a virus. Of course, we don't have one like that for COVID, but either way, I don't want them forced on me. Is this idea of a climate lockdown a conspiracy? Maybe. Just like maybe the idea of mandating vaccines and vaccine passports was once considered a conspiracy.
Yeah, there were many things that we were told was once a conspiracy has now become a reality.
They ended up not being. A climate lockdowns are a real possibility. We keep hearing about the climate catastrophe and how it's an existential crisis, so much so that governments have been imposing harsh measures like fertilizer bans that have led to the shutting down of family farms and even starvation from a lack of food, which seems to defeat the stated purpose. We're trying to save lives from climate disasters, so let's make people suffer and perhaps even die with draconian policies like lockdowns and reduced food supply. Doesn't make sense. Now, I'm all about cleaning up the environment and sustainability. I don't think anybody's really against that. Many of us want the same things, but the problems are the ideas coming from these elites in the World Economic Forum. Their ideas of the Great Reset, telling us what it takes to stay safe and be happy, when in the end what they've proposed has only benefited the rich and the powerful.
Spot on. The thing is, the goal to clean up the world and the planet is not bad in itself, if I may repeat what she's saying, but it's the fact government is getting involved in this and laying down laws and restriction and saying who is deemed to be Your social credit score will be considered. How far can you go? What you must do and must not do. Is these laws and regulations which will come back later on to bite us, okay, and on our backside. That's the stuff that we need to push back against, okay? But again, many of these individuals, they themselves don't really believe that because they live like very close to shores. They themselves are flying jets and they themselves have companies where they are using fossil fuels. So while they are promoting this idea of saving the planet in the name of cooling down this global warming issue, but they themselves are they have military program happening. They are funding wars where more of this gas emission is polluting the air. So how much of that message do they actually believe in? I think very little, if you were to ask me. It seems to me this is more about control and power.
The COVID pandemic showed us this. But they'll point to the COVID pandemic and the initial lockdowns and how well they worked at reducing carbon emissions. Do you remember this? I mean, look at this before and after photos showing dramatic effects lockdowns had on pollution around the world. Look at these photographs. They're going to point to this. They're going to point to these photographs and they're going to say, it works, so let's do it again.
But what about the countries who refuse to surrender, such as Iran and also China and many parts of Africa? What about those countries? And also, what about the impact this will have? There is a domino effect to this stuff because the more we supposedly going green, I heard that the impact is even greater. Let's also take into consideration the cobalt mining that's happening in parts of Africa in the Congos, because these people are supposedly they are even the mining in itself to get your electric cars to drive so you can save the planet and green so-called plan that we are supposed to be trying to achieve. The way that they get these minings themselves is polluting the planet. So it's like these people are saying some of this stuff, but I'm not necessarily sure if they are really considering the nature of the hypocrisy of what they're trying to promote.
You can't leave. You're in lockdown. All right, let's talk about getting some investments in gold. With the way things are going, you might need it. The Biden administration seems to be turning a blind eye to inflation, making securing our savings all the more important. When you finally had enough of the games the government is playing with your savings and retirement, diversify. Actors have died suddenly. So if you are watching this...
All right, well, this was good, and she was on fire. The video from Project Veritas, I was looking for that. I'm not finding it at the moment. Maybe I can do another video to that. But it was one of those videos of C19s, one of the employers, one of the employees spoke out. And one of the things that they were saying was that climate lockdown is coming. That's the next goal. Once we are done with C19 pandemic and whatever propaganda was behind that, we are going to transition to climate lockdown. And here we are. It's good to look into Mariana Mazzucato, some of the things that she has spoken about, and I've spoken about her in this channel before. There's a lot of things that's happening here, friends, we need to take into consideration. This is not a joke. We're not here to try and scare people into submission and so on. No. There is something cooking on the horizon here, my dear friends. There is a major deception, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is a major deception behind this climate change, and there's been many other physicists, there's been other environmentalists proving that their so-called standard or metrics by which they determine how hot is the climate getting, that even the computers that are used to calculate these numbers is being proven that it is wrong. And again, we can go on, and I know some people say, you're a climate denier. Listen, man, don't you understand when people are trying to strip you from your freedom in the name of trying to save you? The same deception that was used for C19 pandemic to control the masses is going to be used again under the heading of climate change in the hope of saving a world. Let me say something. Men cannot save the world. And secondly, the world does not need saving. We do. Men cannot save the world. Only one person came to save the world. And he says, whosoever believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So in other words, God didn't come to die for a globe. God came to die for humanity. This doesn't mean we shouldn't take care of the globe and care for our world and do the best we can to keep things clean. I'm not saying that. God has given us charge in order to take over and watch over our planet. I'm all for that. But the notion that government control, elitists, and these monopolies, these moneyed men, these affluencers are the one who are going to determine what can I do, where can I go, how much can I own, how far can I drive, when do I wake up, when do I go to sleep. That's crazy business. I cannot prescribe to that ideology. But I'm telling you that, friends, this stuff, oftentimes we look at that, right? And we say, this is happening from just elitists. I'm going to show you something. Wait a minute. I'm going to show you something. This is bigger than what you thought. Now, first of all, I'm going to show you who is really pushing this agenda. Now, there is a movie called The Letter, A Message for Our Earth. Now, before I share this with you, let me show you what the scripture says. Friends, you got to understand, this is not happening by chance. This is all part of a big plan. Now, watch this. Now, I've spoken about this before. The Bible speaks about a great prostitute, right? And he's speaking about this harlot woman. And when you study the characters of this harlot woman, friends, I am not sugarcoating anymore. It's too late to be sugarcoating this thing. When you study Revelation 17 or the beast, right? When you carefully study this woman, I saw a woman sitting upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abomination of her filthiness of fornication. Now listen to this. And upon her head was written the name, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Now let me ask you a number of questions here. Who might be asking the question, who is this woman? First of all, the first thing you need to understand, in Bible prophecy, a woman symbolized a church. But however, this is not a pure church. In Revelation chapter 12, we have what is known as the pure, the white linen woman, right? This is the church of Christ. But in this one, what we have is a scarlet woman, a woman in red. So there's a woman in white in Revelation chapter 12. There's a woman in red in Revelation chapter 17. What's the difference? Well, the difference simply is this woman here is an apostate church. There is a true church of Christ and there is a fake one. So how could we tell what the difference is? Look at the names. Number one, this woman wears scarlet colors. She sits up on a beast. And by the way, beast in Bible prophecy represents kingdoms. You will find this in Daniel chapter 7, verse 23 and 24. Revelation chapter 13, also verses 1 and 2, is speaking about kingdoms or nations. Okay. So in other words, this woman she sits upon the beast of the earth. In other words, she's in control of governments. She's in control of political powers. She's influencing them. She has names of blasphemies. Oh, we can go deep. Having 7 heads and 10 horns. And by the way, if you don't know who this is, I'll be more glad to tell you. This is a reference to the Roman Catholic Church. Now, friends, I am not condemning Roman Catholics. I am not condemning Roman Catholic people. As a matter of fact, some of my family members, even my mother, is a Roman Catholic. But I say that to say this. The system of Catholicism is clearly depicted in Scripture and exposed as the Antichrist system. It's not something people are making up. Listen, every Protestant reformer believed this. You ask Martin Luther, Zwingli, Wesley, you ask them, go read their books. They will tell you, we knew who this woman was. Today, Christians, Protestant of today's world, modern Protestants today, they don't know, but I do. Look what it says furthermore. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color. Which other system has these colors? Come on, friends. Like, think about this. Which other system has these colors? Duh. And went on to say, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her cup a golden hand full of abomination. Which other system has a golden cup in her hands? Like, the Bible is so clear. Drinking from a golden cup. Which church does that? Now, he tells you that she's committing fornication. And he also said, this woman here, she is the mother of harlots. In other words, she is not the just a church. She is considered herself the mother church. Harlots. In other words, there are other churches that are very similar to her. In other words, she has daughters. Who claims to be the mother church? like the Bible is clear. It's not that difficult to understand. But this is the point I'm trying to understand. We can actually go back into this. And by the way, if you want to go deeper, the martyrs of Jesus Christ, blood, drink with the blood of the saints, you go do some historical research about how many people were persecuted by the Catholic Church during the first earliest centuries, my dear friends. From the year of 538 AD to 1798, go do your research. The church has controlled the power, which is France, England, Spain, took control of them, Portuguese. The church controlled them and began to persecute. They went as far as even some of the churchmen, some of the priests themselves were doing the persecuting. This is not something I'm making up. Go do your research. Go do your research on the history of the Catholic Church and the early Dark Ages persecution. You'll see, my dear friends, it's been said the church has shed more innocent blood than any other institution on the face of the earth. This is not something we're making up, friends. So you need to go and dig into that stuff. You know how many times the Pope has come forward and apologized for the persecutions of the past? Even recently, they came out and said, I'm sorry for all the bloodshed that we did. So have you ever heard about the Counter-Reformation? Have you ever heard about the Inquisition? Have you ever heard about the Spanish Inquisition? Have you ever heard about a Bartholomew massacre? Have you ever heard about the massacre of the Huguenots? Go do some research. Who was behind that? Now, there's much more we can say, but here is the point of what I'm trying to say here, my dear friends. We are told that this woman, right, she is having the kings of the earth. They are committing fornication with her. But not only that, the merchants of the earth have become rich. They wax rich through her fornication. In other words, what we see happening in the climate change environment, you have to understand, it is closely related. The rich men are connected to the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church is giving counsel to the rich men, the bankers, the businessmen, the politicians. They are in relationship with the church, and the church is telling them what to do, in essence, to save the world. What do you think? Why do you think in 2013, Mr. Pope Francis came to the joint session of Congress in Philadelphia? What do you think? What do you think that was about? What do you think that was about? You think this was about just a nice Catholic visit? Are you serious? Nancy Pelosi and what was his name? Biden was there, and they were vice president at the time. Listen, go do your research on that. There is an article called Laudato Si. Laudato Si, care for our home. This article was so well respected and loved and practiced and applied than any other. As a matter of fact, this is what drives the whole climate discussion. This idea of like downs and everything, it comes from this article. This came from the church. There is a movie, my dear friends. Go look it up. It's called, there it is on your screen. I ain't making nothing up, friends. We have no time for speculation. There it is right here. There it is right here. It's called The Pope Environmental Crisis, The Frontline, The Letter, Laudato Si film. Listen, friends. People don't see the connection that these climate-like downs have with the theology of the Catholic Church system, Mr. Pope Francis. They don't see it. All I'm trying to do is to say, listen, friends, this is bigger than politics. This is a religious move. And the Bible warned us about this. And friends, I can say much more. I'm going to have to save my thought for my Bible prophecy series that's coming up this year. I'm already working on the videos, the PowerPoints already. So guess what? If you have more questions, you're going to have to wait because I cannot get through this in one video, in one segment. But I will say this, make sure you go and check out the Pope and the Environmental Service. Listen to that video. I'm going to put a link of it in the description. You need to go watch this because all the climate change talk is built on this foundation. We're talking about Greta Thunberg and all these people. Like, listen, it's bigger than these people. This is a religious move, my friend. It's a religious move, my friend. And that move, people who are signing on to this without understanding the nature of that, the origin of that, and the trajectory, are they gonna regret it really, really bad? Very much to the same degree of what we are regretting when it comes to C-19 pandemic and all the mandates that came with that. This is going to bite. But I'll tell you one thing though. We need not to fear. God is in charge. Recently, I've read something in the Bible, in the book of Psalms. I think it was Psalm 46, when the Bible says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth." You see, if the Lord is on our side, we must not fear what men will do unto us. Stand firm. Stand bold. God will work for us. We must not fear what these men are up to, especially when we know that the Lord is on our side.